So welcome to the Learn to RV podcast. We are back for season 2. This is episode 2 of our season. But if you're on Patreon right now, you're getting this the same day as the brand new episode drops. So welcome back. We're so excited you're back with us. Today, we're going to take on a topic that, I've been doing RV life for 13 years, but I have not mastered this because the economy keeps changing. So RVing on a budget is a really hot topic around the country. And a lot of people think that it actually costs a lot less to live in an RV. And I would actually very much disagree with that statement. And so we're going to dive right in and talk kind of like what RV life really costs us anyway. And then, if you have your own experiences, please put them in the comments, write to us. We want to hear exactly how you handle those budget crises too. So the economy is changing. Tasha, one of the things I think that, we're going to talk about budget being far more than just campgrounds.
Yes.
Would you agree with that statement?
I would 100% agree with that statement. Yes. I think it's everything from you really have to take into consideration your food, your fuel. You have to be thinking about, are you going to go do activities? Are you going to go see monuments? Are you going to go to parks? What are you going to do with your time? All of that budgets in where if you're sitting in one house, you may not be driving that much, or you may not be going out and doing that much, or you may be eating at home more often. So those are all things that you really need to keep in mind as you're budgeting.
100%. So part-time versus full-time life, would you say there's probably a big difference in that?
I think so, because the part-timers that I've spoken to, when they go out, they're going out with a specific event or a specific location in mind. And so maybe that period of time is going to be spending more money than what I would during that short period of time as a full-timer, because I do have to make this stretch long term. So I don't have as many big ticket spends in a row as maybe someone who's traveling short time or part time might have, because they have a shorter amount of time to fit in bigger events.
100%. And so let's dive right in with campgrounds. I mean, I remember when I first started campgrounds, we could easily find a spot for anywhere between $35 to $40 a night. And that was a pretty nice campground. That was back in 2013. If we were staying at a KOA, it might be $60. Now you're lucky to find a KOA around $85 for that same KOA, that same site. And so some of those ways that we personally offset those costs is we have some discount cards and we have some campground memberships, but they're not for everybody. We do have spendy weeks where we have to be in an area where none of those are there, or we're going to a rally and we're going to spend the money on that. But when we first hit the road, we bought a Thousand Trails membership out of Hershey, Pennsylvania. It's not the be all end all, but it is a great way to find other families on the road for us. And it keeps our costs mitigated. I won't say lower, but it definitely drops them when we can be in the area. So like for the winter in Florida, it's really spendy in the winter because all the snowbirds come back down. So if you're buying a campground site, you're going to spend starting at about $1,000 a month plus electricity at the campground you're going to. And that's on a low end a lot of times, where with my Thousand Trails membership, I can go 2 weeks. Now I have to move every 2 weeks, but I can go park to park. And so we have one of the older memberships, which they don't have anymore, but we have Sharon and Warren Lewis as our representatives with Learn to RV, that if you're interested in Thousand Trails, you can actually reach out to them and they'll help you through that. So I know you guys got into Thousand Trails because of us.
We did.
Yeah. So tell me about when you guys jumped on. Did you jump on before the memberships changed?
We did. And I'm really glad that we did. Before we even got into our RV, we had done that 6 months worth of research of what are we doing? What are we buying? Where are we going? And we had watched so many videos on, is Thousand Trails a good deal? And literally, depending on who you talk to, everybody's got a different opinion. And even if you go to the Facebook groups today that talk about the good, the bad, the ugly of Thousand Trails, everybody has got a different opinion. And so we really didn't know what to do when we set out. And so when we got on the road and we met you guys, I remember Frank had mentioned to me that you guys had a Thousand Trail membership, and I got to kind of pick his brain about it a little bit. And then I got to talk to you more about it. And by the time we got to Quartzsite, there was a stand and they were giving like full video presentations and all of that. And I was like, I need all of the details. And what we ended up doing is we bought in with the adventure plan. So we have 3 weeks in a park and we go park to park. So we don't have to be out of the system in between our stays. And we paid a good chunk of money up front to buy in at the time that we did.
Oh,
They did have financing. So we financed. So we make payments and then there's yearly dues for what we have for our adventure membership. So our adventure membership, we have like a yearly due that changes, and that changes kind of based on like how they feel cost of living and cost of upkeep of the parks is going. And so everybody's yearly dues kind of fluctuate based on that. But we have that yearly due that's at the beginning of the year. And then because we set up a financing for our buy-in, we know that we owe, you know, this much money every month for our payment. Even with all of that, we are paying significantly less than what we were paying renting a house for our Thousand Trails membership. And what that has done for us is that every Thousand Trail park that we stay in, the ones that we've stayed in, we don't have a nightly fee. They do have in our package a line of camps that are included in the trails collection that we can stay at, and those have a discounted rate. And then there's sister parks in the RPI collection that if we're not near a Thousand Trail Park or a uh, camping, what did I just say that was called? Trails
RPI.
collection
Oh, Trails Collection.
campsite, then the RPI is like a sister park that is at a discounted rate, but is a little bit higher. So when we went to the Keys, that's what we used, and that made going to the Keys affordable, and
That
that's how
makes
we
more
got to the
sense.
Keys. Mhm.
So we've never
Yep.
made it to the Keys. We've had Thousand Trails since 2013. About 4.5, 5 years in, we bought into Coast to Coast. And Coast to Coast is very similar. We actually let our RPI lapse at that point because a lot of the coast parks are RPI parks. But
Yeah.
here's the caveat to that. And what we didn't know when we bought it is that Florida is an off limits zone in the wintertime. What I would say is no two parks are created equal. And, Thousand Trails may
Absolutely.
fit you. A lot of people think that Thousand Trails is supposed to be a resort because that's how they market it. And some of the parks are really not very resort like. It's budget camping, but at the same time, a lot of them do have pools. A lot of them have
Mhm.
pickleball courts. A lot of them have clubhouses. But for me, a lot of them have families. And that's what
Yes.
was important to me was a way to find the other families. And so my kids don't feel like they don't belong at most of the parks in Thousand Trails. We also have Passport America.
Mhm.
And I wanted to touch on this briefly because Passport America is a great deal if you're going to use it. But I think that's true of anything that's out there, right? Do you have Passport America?
We did, and then we let it lapse, and I may renew it. I haven't decided, but so far we haven't needed it.
So the best place to renew that is at a rally or a show because
Mhm.
they have a lifetime membership deal for like, I don't
Yes.
know, it's like a little over $300 and you can be a lifetime member. And so you don't have to pay that yearly due. If you're going to use it even a little bit, if you buy the lifetime, what it is, it's a little bit more challenging for those of us that work. You have to travel on certain days of the week. Oftentimes those are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And so
Mhm.
weekends are sometimes off limits. There are some times where seasonally there are parks that are off limits, but you can go on the app and it's super easy to find out. And a lot of them are right along the highway. So I'll actually use that over my RV overnights. But I mean, the reality is I'll use that because so many of the campgrounds are right along the highway. Now, those are what I would call mostly campgrounds, mostly not resorts. I would say Thousand Trails is a resort next to some of the campgrounds that we've been to on Passport America.
I would agree with that.
All right, so that was the other one I had was RV overnights and Boondockers Welcome and Harvest Toast. Do you have any of those?
Yes, so we have RV overnights. We used to have Harvest Host, and when we got RV overnights, we let our Harvest Host lapse. And we're just kind of waiting to see like, do we run into a situation where we need it? where we run into a situation where we can't find a campground or we can't find a spot. A lot of the same places that were registered in Harvest Host are registered in RV overnights. And so it was like I don't need to pay for two services that are offering me the same stays.
But some people
So,
do, and the people
yeah,
that do the people I know that do it actually will stay, like, one night with Harvest Host, one night with RV overnights. So if going to wineries and breweries and farms and stuff like that is your jam, that might be a great way for you to save money and travel, if you can travel that
yeah,
way.
yeah.
A lot of times we're doing shows and rallies, so it doesn't work out for us because 'cause they're a little far off the beaten path for where we're headed, but if they're along the route, I'll still always check. We actually stayed at one last year that was down in Arizona, and,
Mhm.
like, we could pre-order our eggs through
Nice.
the app. It was wonderful. Let's talk about booking strategies. So, as a full-timer, do you
Yes.
book further out?
We do. So with our 1,000 trails, we have a 180-day window.
Yep, you
So
have more than me. I don't know if you know that, I
yeah,
only have 120.
yep. And so Matt is like, he's sweating bullets if we've entered into that 180 days and we haven't put something down on the calendar. He's like, we're going to lose it. We're going to lose our opportunity. So we are always trying to make sure that we've planned ahead that far. Um, and that we've at least got something in the book so that we're in the system. And then, we'll adjust if our plans change, but we try to make sure that we're booked out at least that far.
For sure. A lot of people boondock, and boondocking is a great way to save money if you're traveling, if
Yeah.
you can do it. We do have a generator on board, and so we will sometimes boondock, but it's not all the time. And it's way easier to do that out west. So as we're on the East
Yeah.
Coast this year, it's just so much harder to do that. The humidity, all of that stuff. For us, it doesn't necessarily save us money
Mhm.
because we're still putting the fuel into the unit, and then we have to find some place to dump, and so there's some of that that has to be in the thought process. Free camping, a lot of people say stay at a truck stop or Walmart, and so how do you feel about that?
So we have like our setup is a little tricky because you are our current rig, you can't get in the front door unless you open up slides. And so a lot of those locations are great for you if you can actually get into your rig without opening your slides because they don't want you to open your slides. I can't get past my front entranceway without letting out the slides. So going to Walmart has not really been a viable option for us unless we are all four sleeping in the truck. And that's just not a really comfortable way to sleep.
One of the things is Walmart, you're supposed to now ask, and so if
Yes,
you get
because
there,
it's
you're supposed
not,
to ask.
yep. And that was something that actually changed when I was working with Walmart because it had kind of changed nationwide. Used to be that, Sam Walton had set that up so that truckers and travelers could stop and they could sleep. He didn't want people traveling overnight and risking themselves or their families'
Right.
livelihoods. But things started changing nationwide, and cities were putting lockdowns on whether or not people could sleep in parking lots. And it actually kind of removed that from being able to be a nationwide stance for the company.
Right.
And they had to make it kind of a every store gets to make their own rules. And then every store is kind of, they have to wait and see what their local government says, and then they can make their own rules. So it's really important to check inside because some of them, the local government doesn't allow it to begin with.
Well, and I think part of that had to do with the fact that people were pulling out slides and setting up
Yes.
camp and putting out lawn chairs, and that was not the idea
Yeah.
behind that ever. So, yes, you can boondock at Walmart. If you get tired, I mean, we would have to, like, the toy hauler, you'd have to enter from the back, and then we would have to enter from the front, but the kids couldn't get to the bathroom without walking outside to get to the bathroom. So in this unit, I mean, we didn't have that problem in the other one. We could actually get through ours because we only had one slide in the other one, so we could just push everything to one side and still boondock somewhere.
Yeah.
But the body heat with 5 people in the camper is a whole different conversation. So
Yes.
we tend to find a thing, especially if it's on the highway. That's where I use probably Passport America the most on the road
Mhm.
because they're usually pretty close to the highway. So we'll find that 50% discount, and we try not to travel on a Friday, Saturday on those nights if we have to.
I hear mixed reviews on this, but we've had nothing but good experiences with the Loves stops where they've got
Yep.
actual camping spots open. They are not cheap, but if you need a one night stop because you just cannot make it any further and it's not safe for you to continue driving, those are a really great spot to stop. So I always encourage
But
people to look at those.
in that situation, size matters because they only have a limited number of sites for bigger rigs too, and so that's something to
Yeah,
keep in mind if you're booking those.
it kinda depends on which spot you're at, because that is true on some of them. But we've seen some that have had ginormous rigs, so it depends on the property, it depends on how they've got it set up, but yeah, um, at least looking to see if there's one nearby if you don't have that's a better option than pulling off on the side of the road, I think.
So let's talk truck stops for a minute because, our first year on the road, we did use those, and we have since not used those at all, pretty
Mhm.
much in the last since we learned. So, I mean, most people don't even realize that truckers legally have to stop. And
Yeah,
so that's why they pull into those spots. And if an RV is in those spots and they can't pull over, they can actually get fined pretty heftily for doing
yeah,
so. So, I mean, I like to bring that up just because people don't know, and that has nothing at all to do with budgeting except that it does. So if you're budgeting, plan to stay somewhere that's not a truck parking spot.
yes,
It's one thing to park there for just a few minutes as you go in after you fuel up. It's a whole nother thing to spend the night and take that spot from the truckers that legally have to use those spots.
yeah. And while we're on the topic of truck stops, this is something that kinda makes me crazy, but we have an open roads membership. I love it.
That's awesome because that's actually where we're going next.
Awesome sauce. Well, I love it. We're able to get great discounts on our diesel. It's wonderful. One of the things that drives me crazy, though, is watching people not pulling forward to the line after you've filled up if you need to run in to pay or run in to get something to eat. If you don't pull forward, all of the truckers that are behind you are stuck until you get back. And I've seen people not pull forward and leave their RVs there, and there will be like trucks just lined up, and that has stopped them from being able to move. You got to keep moving. Move your rig up so that they can move up and begin their fueling process. It's going to take them longer to fuel up than it's going to take you to run inside and get a Snicker bar. But it allows them to keep moving without losing that time that they're getting paid for. It's kind of like how we've got rules at the campground, there are rules at the truck stop. That's one of
Yep.
them. Just move
That would
forward.
be a good mini. I'm just saying. Okay,
Yes.
so let's talk about open roads since we already
Mhm.
brought it up. So, what is open roads? Do you want to tell everybody what open roads is?
Open Roads is a membership that you can have. It is a membership card. Um,
And it's free to get
it
it.
is free to get it. So if you think you have to pay, you don't. It is free to get it. And what they do is you pay at the pump using their card. It comes out of your bank account. So you're paying basically with an Open Roads card that is linked to your bank account. So you're paying with the money you would have been paying with anyway, but it gives you a major discount on diesel. They have arrangements with several different truck stops across the country, and you can get on the app and say, okay, this is where I'm at. Where are the nearest truck stops to me? They will give you all of the truck stops within the radius that you ask for and what those going rates are so that you can kind of shop around for your diesel. And then there are other benefits to the open roads that Jennifer, I know you know a lot about that because you've been talking to them.
So, the Open Roads VIP program is more than just savings on fuel. It's actually
Mhm.
savings with other companies. And RV Roofing Solutions just partnered. And by the time this airs, you can save more off of the roofing system for RV Roofing Solutions with your Open Roads discount. And
Which
so
is awesome.
that's part of the VIP program. So you don't have to be part of the yeah, VIP program for actually saving on fuel. But the
Right.
VIP program is $99 a year, and it's not just RV Roofing Solutions that doing that. You can save on Betty's, you can save there are so many companies that are now partnering with Open Roads. The
Yep.
thing that we're doing differently with RV Roofing Solutions is Family RV Association members can actually stack their discount. So that means they're almost saving what we would call rally pricing. So
Mhm.
if they're both Open Roads and FRVA, they will actually be able to save $5 off a foot and another $5 off a foot. And then if they're a veteran first responder or teacher, they can actually save an extra little bit there too. So we're just doing something different and we're trying it out this year. I think it's going to be amazing. But Open Roads is a great way to do that. There's also Gas Buddy that will tell you the gas prices in your area. And then, route planning, some of the things that you have to do, especially if you're driving through the desert and gas stops are far, far apart. We actually carry extra fuel cans that are usually not full, but when we're going longer hauls, we'll do that. If you have a toy hauler, you can put some extra fuel in there, but that has its own set of challenges because then you have to fill it into your gas can and then fill it into your tank.
Right.
But if in a pinch, it's not a bad way to do it, so you need to know your rig range. How many miles per gallon are you getting? All of that needs to be budgeted in. And fuel prices vary across the country. Diesel's more consistent, I would say, across the country,
Yeah.
but you still have ranges. And another way to save is Costco. If you can afford to, it won't help you with Open Roads, but if the
Yeah.
diesel pumps are open at Costco, a lot of times we'll fill up, so it's kind of a, give and take, and it depends on where we are, when we are in terms of that. So the next thing I always like to talk about in terms of budget is food on the road.
Mm.
My biggest mistake is probably living too much in vacation mode because it's
There's good
fun.
food out there, Jennifer.
Yeah.
There's some
So I
good
mean, like,
stuff.
but well, and I mean, every place has something different that's like kind of
Mhm.
local to them,
Yep.
and I mean, we like to hit the local eateries, not necessarily the big chain restaurants. I mean, it's not that we don't do chain restaurants, it's just that's not our go-to if we're going to go somewhere. But the vacation mode trap,
Yeah.
if you will. I know that we still like by Friday night, we're like, okay, I'm done cooking for the week. Where are we going for dinner?
Yep. Yep.
I try not to make that. I mean, I do. We do. So we have a budget for eating out because that's just something we do. And we like to experience the culture and the food. Last week we went to a British place with you guys. And
Yes.
so, you're not going to find that everywhere. We happen to be near some pretty good British food places. So why not, partake in that? It's harder now because we have a kid that's gluten free. And I know you're
Mhm.
feeling that too. So
Yeah.
for date nights, it's fine. But when we bring the family, we definitely have to be more mindful of where we're going, when we're going, and so we have done more chains even because of that, like Mellow Mushroom is a safe bet
Mhm.
for my kiddo,
Yep.
and so a lot of times if we're gonna go out for pizza, that's where we're going if we're near one, but they're not everywhere,
Right.
and we don't take the chance as much on other places.
Yeah, because a lot of times, even when they say we're gluten free or we have gluten free items, then you show up
Yeah.
and it's like, well, you can get this salad and we'll leave off
Yeah,
the croutons. But we
or
didn't
we'll
check
pick
our
off the
salad.
croutons.
Yeah, but we didn't check our salad dressings to see it. No one thought about the fact that there's gluten in salad dressings or, there's definitely a difference between restaurants that say they have gluten free items and restaurants that truly have taken into consideration people who have allergies. So it is difficult in some more rural areas in the country to find places that are safe to eat out with
100.
allergies. And usually when you do find those places, they are on the costlier side of the spectrum. It's definitely something that we have to budget for in a way that we didn't budget for before, but it's also taught us a lot about different cultures, different types of
Mhm.
foods, things that we hadn't tried before that we've tried now. I don't know. It's been really fun to get to expand that way.
Well, grocery budgets is kind of the same way though. Like when
Mhm.
you're near a city or an area that you find someplace that has lots of gluten-free stuff. I don't know if you're like me. I mean, we were up in New York State and Wegmans had gluten-free Campbell's soup. I still have 3 cans of gluten-free Campbell's soup because it's like gold in this house. But who knew they put gluten in tomato soup? Our budget for food, even just the purchasing of it, is a little bit higher than the average family because of that.
Yeah.
But that being said, I'll stockpile. When
Yep.
we find pasta that's good pasta, we'll buy like 8 of them because we might not be there anytime soon. I also know you guys do a lot of pre-cooked meal planning, don't you?
We do a lot of this was made in the Instant Pot, and now we're eating it for the next 12 years of our life. We eat on something as long as we can eat on something. I've really had to stretch myself that way because I am not good with leftovers. I am like, by day 2, I'm definitely that person that is like, "But is it still good? Are you sure?" And so I've had to really, like, stretch my comfort zone that way, but we have found a lot of recipe books online that are for Instapot recipes, and we just keep trying new recipes out. And so, we can go a few days on one recipe, and typically what happens is we'll make something Monday night, and then by Thursday night, our kids are looking at us like, if you make me eat this again, you won't wake up tomorrow. And then we go find like a mellow mushroom. Like, that's typically how our life goes. But
See, and
that's what
we
we do a
do
lot of.
we do what I call food bingo. Years ago, my family did not like meal planning because meal
Mhm.
planning meant there was a certain day for everything. But whatever day that was the day that they didn't want it. So
Yeah.
basically, we'll buy groceries for the week for about probably 3 or 4 days at a time. And you can pick whatever's there, but tomorrow you have to pick something else. So there's a list of things you can pick from. And then as the kids have gotten older, it's great because they kind of make their own meals midday.
Mhm.
So it's gotten a lot less challenging for me. But with littles, I always had to plan those things out. So,
Yeah.
and working adds to that. We still work on the road, but tracking spending in terms of that, like groceries cost more in Orlando than they do sometimes in Indiana.
Yes.
So there's that too. There's great ways to save, Aldi's across the country. If you don't have a Costco membership or a Sam's Club membership, and if you can use those, that's an amazing way to do it. And then package stuff up and put it in the freezer. But the other
Mhm.
option is like finding, we called it shopping the ad. So like we're right next to a Publix right now. And every week when a Publix ad comes out, I check the ad and I'm like, okay, so
Yeah.
this is what we're eating this week. What's buy one, get one free?
Right? Oh my goodness. Those Publix buy one, get one free. I come home and my family's just looking at me like, Where are we gonna put this? Where does this go?" I'm like, "I don't know. But do you know that it was buy one, get one free at Publix? It was buy one, get one free. I couldn't leave the second one just sitting there." So, you gotta do what you gotta do. And sometimes that means you gotta make room for rice.
Yeah. But or if you have friends you wanna plan with, that's a great way if you're traveling together, you can split grocery costs that way. We've actually done that before with other
Yeah.
families. Like, we'll go to Costco and we'll say, "Okay, we're gonna buy, a 20-pound bag of rice," and then we'll split it up later. And if you have friends that you can do that with, it's a great way to save a few dollars. So maintenance on the road is part of your budget strategy,
Yeah.
honestly. I think it's more expensive if you skip the budget. And I would be
Mhm.
remiss if I didn't talk about roof maintenance at this point. So, removing and replacing your caulk every 12 to 18 months. And if you're not going to do that, at least keep an eye on it. But an industry standard should be to keep an eye on it. Every 3 months, you should be checking and making sure that your membrane isn't torn, that you didn't hit a tree, that your caulking isn't, if there's an issue, like if you have a fiberglass roof and it's chalking, that's like the first sign of degradation. And since this episode is again, sponsored by RV Roofing Solution, now's a great time to tell you that a maintenance free system will stop the need to caulk every 12 to 18 months.
That is true. I don't have to do it. I love it.
What about tires?
Oh, those tires. Listen, you need to be making sure that you are, first of all, I just want to say, when you are buying tires, you need to buy the tires that are the correct grade for the weight of your rig and what you are carrying. I know that it is more expensive out the gate and that it's going to hurt your pocketbook when you go to pay at Discount Tire, but it's going to hurt it more when you get 20 miles down the road from Discount Tire and you blow a tire because you didn't get the right tire. So just upgrade. Just get the tire that you're supposed to have. When we bought this rig, the very first thing we did was we went straight to Discount Tire and had all of the tires switched out, and it was the best decision that we made. We are in the process of trying to get a new rig. We had the RV inspector look at the tires. It's a 2018 and those tires have never been changed. They are 2017s. And
That's crazy.
yes, and we were talking and we would go up in grade. So there's a discount tire less than 10 miles down the road from where the rig is. As soon as we pick it up, we're going straight to discount tires.
Tasha, we buy from discount
Yes.
tires too. Do you want to talk about why discount tires?
I like Discount Tire because, well, a few reasons. First of all, they've been very good about if we've had any issues with tires that we've gotten there, they have been not scammy. They've let us come back in, switch the tire out. They've given us a guarantee on the products that we've gotten from them. They are very good about explaining to us situations that come up with the products that we get from them. The other thing that I really like about them is that, first of all, I've not found any prices that are lower than what I've gotten from them. And then also, I get emails from them that saying like, "Hey, just letting you know, you're probably at about this much in mileage from when we changed your tires. You need to go out and check these things just for maintenance."
Yep.
And so it's like having a partner in tire upkeep without having somebody there with you who's got a check mark like going in their brain all the time of, "Oh, I need to go check this and I need to check this." That's why we like Discount Tire. They are fast, they are very personable, and they're just very trustworthy.
Yeah. We use discount tires. Obviously, this is not sponsored by discount tires, but it's something that we personally use. I think there's lots of other companies out there that you can use. I know people that successfully use Walmart and Costco. The thing is, a lot of times it's ordering them and having them there and then
Mhm.
having the knowledge and the skill to change them all out quickly. So I think that's probably why we personally use discount tire. That and Frank likes the convenience of across the country. If we need to switch something out or if we need to buy new tires, we can do that. You should always buy them in pairs. So like if your right front is low and you need to replace it, your left front should also be replaced at the same time. Doing them all at the same time can be costly, but it's very good for your rig. Fluid checks, bearings. Bearings are something that a lot of people don't know to check on a regular basis. So
Ooh,
repacking your bearings. As a full-time RVer, we do it about once a year. So, I mean, we
yes.
could pay somebody to do it,
It's easy
but
to do
we do
though.
it ourselves. Yeah.
Yes. It's
So
easy to learn,
So that
and
goes to
it'll save you money.
preventative care. Yeah. And DIY versus pro. When is DIY great and when do you need to hire a pro? We had an engine failure in 2016 on our truck and we hired a pro. We took it to a Ford dealership and they put a new engine in California to the tune of a lot of money. And we got to Texas and Frank was like, there's something wrong.
Mm,
So even the pros can get it wrong. So I'm
uh-huh.
going to say that now, even as a business owner, we got to Texas with that truck and Frank's like, something's wrong with the truck. And we took it to the Ford dealership and they're like, well, yeah, somewhere between California and here, your gasket fell off to both the turbo and the exhaust. But if you want that fixed, it's a dealer problem, so you can drive it back to California. So know what your warranty is on things that you're buying because a lot of companies have some type of business practice where it's only at their dealership, it's only at their company. Know what you're getting yourself into. If you're buying somewhere for a warranty, you need to know what that warranty reads, even the fine print. It's okay to ask for a warranty before you even sign a contract with that company.
I would also add to that that if you are trying to decide between going to maybe a dealership shop and spending more for someone who is certified or knows the specifics of your engine, knows the specific of your rig versus just hiring someone who says that they know, but they're going to do it for cheaper, really weigh the pros and cons of that. We've made choices in the past where we thought we're saving money by having this person come to us and fix this on the truck. And then they fixed it wrong because they weren't up to speed on diesel engines. And so they ended up breaking it further. And then we did have to go into a certified shop and pay even more money than we would have for the original fix to get now an even larger problem taken care of. So really know that when you're talking to people about repairs, know what their certifications are, know what have they worked on, what haven't they worked on. Sometimes just because the dollar amount sounds better, that doesn't mean that it's going to save you money in the long run. It might actually cost you more to save up front.
Yep, we see that in roof care all the time, unfortunately.
Mhm.
Next one is connectivity. Okay, so a lot of people rely on things like campground Wi-Fi for work,
Mhm.
and here's why I don't recommend that. As a business owner, I carry my clients' files. So we carry a ton of internet. We have lines through T-Mobile, we have lines through Verizon. We actually used to carry AT&T and T, and we dropped it when we got Starlink, but we carry two Starlink systems so that we're always connected wherever we go, no matter where we are. But that costs money. I mean, there's
Mhm.
no you just, that's a car payment, what I just gave you, in connectivity. So, actually, it's a truck payment. It's expensive. So, you have to keep that in mind when you're getting on the road is you're if you work on the road, especially, how are you staying connected?
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys carry a couple different things than we do. So, do you wanna
Mhm.
talk about your internet situation?
Yeah, we've got T-Mobile and we've got Verizon, and then we also have on our cell phones, we have a different Verizon plan, and that's got hotspots. So we use the hotspot on our cell phones whenever our routers in our rig are not connecting. And so we've got
Mhm.
those 3. We've had Starlink in the past and we were having issues with our dish not connecting to the satellite. It kept breaking. We kept trying to get it repaired. They kept sending us a new one. We finally were just like, look, we haven't used it in this many months because it's been broken. Let's just cancel it. So we haven't used it since. And then we've had a couple of other internet solutions in the past that for different reasons we ended up getting rid of. The 2 that we have now are the 2 that have been the most reliable for us. Matt and I work full time. We have to be on our computers Monday through Friday during work hours. And I work for a healthcare system. So I have very specific requirements that I have to have with my internet because of firewall safety and keeping the hospital's healthcare system safe from hackers. So, we do what we have to do and we pay what we have to pay to be able to make this work. So, it's important.
100%. And I think that a lot of people, and this is a digression, but campground safety in terms of internet goes, carry your own internet. That's the
Yeah.
one thing that so many people don't realize is most campgrounds carry enough internet for you to check your email at the clubhouse. They're
Mhm.
really not streaming quality internet anywhere in the
No.
campground. And
Yeah.
even when you are, you're now on someone's public Wi-Fi. Any of your information, and that could include your bank account, could
Yep.
get hacked because of it. And people just don't know what they don't know, right? It's one of those things that I would rather pay for internet, and like I have a connected tablet so that when we're at shows and rallies, we can actually have our customer stuff that's directly to my lines. And so we're not going on public Wi-Fi that way. That costs us extra money, but it's worth it for us long term. All right. So next one, I've got mail on the list. So things you don't think about as even as a part-time RVer, unless you're like
Yes.
on the road and you're just doing weekend trips, you have to think about who's going to get your mail for you.
Mhm. And it's getting more
So we're
expensive.
yeah, and we're Escapees members, and we have been since 2014. They've handled our mail that long, but we also have another mail service for our business that is not through Escapees. And I know you guys have a mail service where
Yes.
you handle your domicile. So
Mhm.
whether you're a snowbird or you're a sunbird, I learned that term this year. I didn't know sunbirds were a thing. That's the people down south that go north for the summer or somewhere in between. Like, even if you're taking a 6-week trip, you have to have a plan for what's happening with your mail during that time,
Yes.
whether that's for a free service from the post office or you're opening up a mailbox somewhere for 6 months of the year. And there's lots of ways to do it, but you can't always get mail at the campgrounds you go to. So it's
Mhm.
important to know that information and how much it's going to cost you.
Yes. And it's important also, maybe the campground that you're at might say, hey, you can have things delivered here. You need to ask them if they charge for you to have things delivered because increasingly so, places will charge $5 a piece for things to be delivered. So our mail service unfortunately has begun, instead of putting everything in one box and shipping it, they have started just shipping it to us exactly how it arrived to them. So
Oh
I thought I
no.
was getting, yes, I thought I was getting all of our mail and all of our things that had been delivered to our mail service in one package. And it arrived to our campground that we were at the time as 6 different things. So 6 times 5, I
Huh.
paid $30 to the campground. And that was on top of what I paid to our mail service to have it shipped to us. So, that was a lot of
And
money
see,
to get
I'll
mail.
I'll gladly pay that $30 in the situation because that convenience fee for me is worth it to be able to get my mail there. There's a lot of people that have a fit about the convenience fee, but I just like being able to be able to get it wherever we are because not all campgrounds even allow it anymore.
Yeah,
And I think that's,
absolutely.
a whole thing. So, roadside assistance, do you have it?
I do.
Yeah.
And I have a noisy cat. I don't know if you can hear him, but he wants treats. That's also got to be budgeted for.
Cat treats? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, emergency visits on the road, is another one. That you need to have an emergency fund if you have pets, if you have your
Hmm.
rig. And this is where I'm going to dive into FRVA. So, Family RV Association has a couple different things, one of which is a roadside assistance program through CoachNet. They have one of the best prices on it across the industry. A lot of people have CoachNet as that, but what's great about the one with FRVA is that it's budgeted for how large the group is. But the FRVA Medical Assist program is something that's nice to have. So if you do have an emergency on the road, you need to get home, whatever, they're not going to pay your bills for you, but it makes it an affordable way to get there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what would you say is a good budget for an emergency fund?
Oh my gosh. I don't know that I'm the person to ask, Jen, because I feel like a Martin emergency usually costs more than everybody else's emergencies. I can't. Nope. I think you should tell me what I should be carrying, and then I'll tell you if we've exceeded that in all of our mayhem moments.
So, I think it depends on what kind of rig you have.
Hmm.
So, if you have a motorhome and you lose access to your motorhome because something happens and it has to go in the shop, you need to have enough for an Airbnb. And I mean, you experienced something like that this summer where you had to
We
move out of
did.
your rig.
Yep.
So,
And
what did that look like for you if you're willing to share that?
we ended up being at an Airbnb for, I think we spent 3 total weeks, in an Airbnb, but at different Airbnbs. And then we, got into the rig, and then we realized there were more things that needed fixed. And so we were back in an Airbnb for a little bit. So at the time, we were in Indiana. So it was Airbnb prices in Indiana, but we were outside of Notre Dame. So Notre Dame, but not Notre Dame, Notre Dame, because we were in Indiana. So, so, prices were a little bit higher for those Airbnbs, but that's where the shop was that was fixing our rigs. So we wanted to be nearby in case anything happened and we needed to get there quickly or we needed to be on site to help make any decisions. That also meant that we had the costs of the repairs on top of that. So, our insurance covered most of it, but there were things that weren't covered. So it, that was a very expensive month. That was a very expensive month. And I
Yeah.
think we probably went through a few $1,000s just in the repairs that came out of pocket and then the amount of money that we spent on Airbnb alone. And that was money that we had in savings. So we were able to lean on that. But I think that it's really important when you start out to have at least $10,000. I think that's such a good amount to have as like a base. This is my safety net because something is going to happen. Something always happens. You can't stop it from happening. And even if you have the best luck in the world, nails happen, birds hit dashboards, or hit windows, like things happen. There will be something that needs repaired, and there will be something that your deductible doesn't cover, or, it just doesn't cover, and it'll have to come out of pocket. So you've got to be prepared for that.
Yep, for sure. Community
I'm not
memberships.
talking from experience, it's not like birds have ever
You
hit our window, but maybe they have.
Well, I thought maybe your dashboard.
They might have. We've had birds in houses before, so.
Okay.
Can't put anything
Um,
past the Martins.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to hit on quickly was community. I did mention the FRVA membership. Open Roads is a membership. There are a lot of extra memberships out there that will save you money, but you also have to realize they're going to cost you something to get them.
Yes.
So, like, we're full time families members. We bought a lifetime membership back in 2013, 14, really early on. That was back when it was pretty affordable to do that. We don't have to buy another membership to that to get access to events. But budgeting for events is also something. If you're going to do a rally once a year, twice a year, that's going to cost you more because most of those are either at a resort or a fairground, and there's going to be extra fees. So you want to make sure that you're budgeting that in ahead of time so that
Mhm.
it's not
Listen.
catching you off guard. But if you're budgeting for those things, it's not really as big of a deal.
Yeah.
RVing may not be a cheaper lifestyle, but it fits for us. And so if you're out there and you're thinking, "Hey, I want to do this. What kind of budget do I need to do it?" It's time to sit down and do a side-by-side comparison. If that's your deciding factor. There's lots of ways to make money out here, from work
Mhm.
camping to coming on the road with a remote job to owning a company in the industry to helping other families that are RV techs find other ways to do that, whatever that looks like for your family. But at the same time, being smart about it is very important. Do you have any tips and tricks as far as closing? Like, if you had to give one piece of advice about how to budget well on the road, what would you tell someone?
I think my tip, and people gotta be tired of hearing me say this, but you've just got to find balance and you've got to decide what are the things that you really want to do, and then where are the places where you're willing to skimp. So we're willing to get that chicken that's, on its last leg, if you will, at the grocery store and cook it in the air fryer or in the Instapot and eat on it for a week so that we can go out and splurge on the weekend and not have to worry about how much the lobster rolls cost. That's something that we do because we want to be able to have those little vacation feeling moments, but we also know that we have to be realistic with our budget. The other tip that I would give is make sure that you're planning for things to go wrong. So save money where you can, put money aside, prepare for what happens if, because there will be an if, and it will cost more if you haven't prepared for it than if you do some preparation in advance.
Right, for sure. So, you know, the one thing I like to tell people is there's tons of free things to do out there. So look on Atlas Obscura. Take the time to just look. You can just Google stuff, free things to do near me.
Yeah.
Pick up a hobby that's not very expensive. We picked up kayaks, and the kayaks themselves were pretty expensive, but day to day to go out and paddle, it's a pretty inexpensive day. And there's lots of hobbies that you can do that are a lot of fun. So, from all of us here at Learn to RV, the podcast, we want to thank you for joining in tonight. It's one of those, conversations that's important. But budget, what does that look like for you? So don't forget to like and subscribe and join us next week at Learn to RV, the podcast.